Oh, we're back in it.
Indeed.
Our patrons picked a long one this month. Jesus.
Yeah. To be fair, we did pick this game from the studio.
Okay, so in my defense, every Let's Play we saw of it was like 2 hours long.
Yeah.
And when I looked on how long to be, it was like, oh, it's going to be like 2 hours or something. I'm like, okay, sure. Turns out those were all of just the demo. That was my bad. But I don't regret it because this game is fucking awesome.
Yeah. So,
anyway.
You want us to burn some papers?
Yeah, and then I want you to find out what the hell is going on with your chin. Also,
Wow.
How come you don't get a cool outfit, Bob? You're the only one. You're the only one that hasn't had an outfit.
That's what I've been asking. Why can't I have purple? Not just any papers, the contracts that Nephthys has signed with the city and its inhabitants. Without them, they can't defend their actions in court. They must have copied them 12 times, though. Couldn't we just show this evidence to the media?
Did we skip over the part where everyone was angry at Joe, or did that happen at the end of did that happen at the end of the last? I think there was a little bit of
Maybe
that.
they got over it quick. And who would publish it? No one that Nephthys couldn't silence or discredit. Right now, at least. If we destroy the contracts and don't get caught, we open Nephthys up to class action lawsuits. They won't be able to prove that anyone owes them anything.
So you want to repeat what we did with Jenna? Destroy debt records?
Exactly. And then, when Nephthys is weak, we can publish what we know.
Won't Nephthys silence them anyway?
Francis might be the 7th richest man in the world, but he needs the resources of his investors to silence the media. If we can make Nephthys the target of scandals and lawsuits, I think they'll stop seeing Francis as a worthy investment.
I love how all of the robbery and theft in this one turns out to be about water and canceling debt. It's like, yeah, for real.
You mean they'd try and replace him? He basically is Nephthys. His face is everywhere, and he's on the air constantly. Which would mean that any bad PR on Nephthys is easiest to blame on him. You're smart, Josephine. Just vengeful as hell.
Ooh, hello there, Mr. Nat. Goodbye.
Are we really risking our lives on a plan that hinges on rich bloodsuckers sacrificing one of their own? They only see dollars. Francis said so himself. Their loyalty to him is a calculation, nothing more.
And I've never been good at math.
But if we destroy the debts and the contracts, won't they just make new ones? With all these riots going on, I don't think City Hall will make as good a deal as before. The negotiations give us a window to campaign against them.
Today's riot was quelled, and the news only spoke of peaceful protest in favor of Nephthys, which, to my knowledge, was either staged or completely made up.
That's not such a bad thing. Pictures and videos of the actual riot are spreading like wildfire already. The fact that they tried to suppress it helps us spread the message.
What makes them think this is going to work a second time? What makes them think that they didn't see what happened at Jenner, and that they haven't made like backups of all the
suspension of disbelief?
Okay.
But I still want to know if this is even realistic. Jenner kept their records on a single server. Nephthys won't be that careless. Aren't there copies? 2. City Hall has one and Nephthys has one. Why so few? Those records tell basically everything about Nephthys' revenues and water flow. They want to keep that close to their chest. More copies would make that hard.
Interesting. But that's a huge amount of data. How are they storing that? And more importantly, how do you know all this?
The documents are referenced in the plans, but their locations are not. It's easy to deduce that City Hall would have a copy of contracts that it has signed.
What about Nephthys' copy?
I asked a guy in city planning. He said all that data has been moved to the center.
The new water center thing? The one you planned?
The one and the same. I have no idea where they would store data in that place, though. We'll have to work on that. City Hall should be easier.
But how are they storing it? The city has tens of millions of water consumers.
It's carved on a disc of metal in microscopic code. A computer can read it.
Oh, it's a CD-ROM. Okay.
Yeah, it's this strange futuristic device. Probably you haven't seen any of these, but
Okay.
they're round. They've got a hole in the center.
Shit. Okay, I get it.
But I saw those sleazy politicians sell our water. That was on paper. They signed it. That was just for press pictures. The data itself is carved on discs.
I assume they're near impossible to destroy?
Near, but not completely. It's still metal. It will melt in a super furnace.
So we would have to steal them and get them to a super furnace? There can't be many of those in the city.
What about acid?
It would have to be a ridiculously strong acid. The kind they only use in, like, chemistry labs.
I know some...
Oh, fuck. So getting it might not be any easier than finding a furnace? What if we just threw everything in the ocean? They'd never find them. There has to be some kind of tracking mechanism or something that valuable.
It's a block of steel. How are they gonna track it? We have to assume they have a way. We need to destroy the discs. I think I could get us some really strong acid. I have friends who are into that stuff. Plus, the university has some really advanced labs.
Okay, point number 1, no, we're not talking about that. But point number 2, could you grab some for me?
And you know a guy who studies chemistry? A girl, actually. We were roommates the first year. Based on how many of my clothes she stole, she could be convinced to steal from the chem lab.
Just gals being pals.
Yeah, you know how it is.
Well, call her, but we need to move fast. Me, Joe, and Norbert were all seen in the square. They know who we are, and they know our faces. I really hope this was worth it, Joe.
Me too. The three of us should avoid leaving the house at all cost until the operation.
I agree. Meanwhile, why don't you tell us about your adventure? For instance, what on earth happened to your fucking hand?
I slipped and fell on some glass on the floor.
Some glass? Yeah, right. Anything else happened to you?
I met Tina McAllister.
Really? How was she?
Really nice, actually. She gave me her card, said we should have lunch sometime.
Look at you, making famous friends. Did you see Francis?
Yeah, I had a lovely chat with him in the elevator. And you didn't strangle him. I'm calling liar.
Why didn't you just sit down and tell them what happened from beginning to end? Never mind.
No, I mean it. There were other people, so he couldn't do anything. He just stood there and tried to make small talk.
They talked and laughed together until well into the evening. Josephine told them every detail of her adventure. No one said it, but they all knew that the net was tightening around them. They would have to act fast before they were caught. But they could rest for one more night, and pretend that everything was going to be alright. Hey, it rhymed!
Yeah.
Good job, narrator! Josephine spent the next day recuperating while Norbert and Ronnie competed to see who could take care of her the most. One moment, Norbert came to check on her hand. The other, Ronnie brought her some really spicy tea to make her feel better. Amy and Bob ran errands. There was much to be done. While resting, Josephine had plenty of time to think. She began to realize what an idiotic idea the entirety of yesterday had been.
I'm sorry I went without you.
Don't be, but also never do it again. Have some soup instead.
It was stupid and selfish. We could have all died.
Hey, if anyone could pull off that kind of a stunt, it would be you.
You guys still had to rescue my ass.
Yeah, but only at the very end. You could have died a million times in between.
I read the messages you guys sent me. I hate that I made you all worry so much.
It turned out fine. Don't get me wrong, I'm mad as hell, but it could have been worse. Do you get now why you shouldn't go solo?
Because we're stronger as a team?
No, because there's no team without you.
Huh?
The second you were gone, everything fell apart. Norbert and I couldn't agree on a plan, so we just didn't make one. And a lot of people got hurt. Mostly by me.
You were just protecting us.
It's not just that. None of us bothered to help Amy with the protest. She won't show it, but she's as exhausted as you are. I don't know how you do it, but your conviction about what you do is really contagious.
Okay, you can stop with the flattery now.
It's not just hot air. Listen to me, you convinced an entire house of people to take a stand against the largest company in the world.
And how did that turn out?
Then you converted a corporate doctor, your hospital roommate, and some random girl that interviewed you to join in starting a resistance. You are the glue that keeps us together. All of us have thrown our old lives in the sewer because of you. I hate to say it, but you're kind of responsible for us. If we die, it's on you.
I officially no longer feel flattered. Now I'm just terrified.
You should be. I've got no idea what I would do in your shoes.
I guess I was trying to get away from that responsibility by going solo.
And at the same time, you abandoned us. And we were only barely able to save you.
If you're trying to be reassuring, you're failing miserably.
I'm not. I want you to remember this talk when we go into the field next time. You have to lead us.
I know a little joke about field work.
Oh? And what's that joke?
Why did the farmer win the Nobel Prize?
Because he was outstanding in his field.
Yeah, I thought I'd lighten the mood a little.
Okay. Is that the best field joke you know?
Yeah.
I've got one.
Okay.
Why can't you plant your crops in Zmod 60?
Why not?
Because it's not a field.
I
thought you were the one that studied math, you engineer. Huh?
Anyway, I won't forget it, thanks.
Huh? Intimidated by my highbrow humor? For saving your ass?
No, for being honest and telling me when I'm a selfish idiot. And also for saving my ass. And taking care of me. And being cute.
Gay! You should be grateful you're cute yourself. Otherwise I might have left you to die.
No, you wouldn't have. You're a better person than you give yourself credit for, Ronnie.
I never knew the way to redemption was beating up people with a baton. Haha. Yes!
Hey, might as well do what you're good at. Like soup.
Anyway, I want you to try pulling a sword out of my chest. I've been watching some anime, and I've noticed an uncanny resemblance.
Okay, but I'm pretty sure I can't do that one, because while I am the protagonist, I don't have pink hair. As I'm led to believe...
That's true.
I'm led to believe the Technicolor hair is part and parcel of the sword pulling. Like, it doesn't work if just one of us has.
There was a knock on the door.
I could try dyeing it.
You know, I'll have Bob pick some up for you while he's grabbing his own for his purple hair. It was Amy.
Hi, any news on your friend? She'll do it. She says she hates her professor anyway.
Excellent. It's still weird. It still feels like Amy is... Maybe it's just a perspective thing. But it feels like Amy's head is much larger in her portrait than everyone else's is.
Maybe she's just closer to you.
Maybe.
There's just one problem.
How much does she want?
She wants no money, but Norbert walked past while I was video chatting with her, and...
Norbert appeared looking quite helpless. She wants to have dinner with me.
What? She has a thing for doctors, and outrageous conditions for doing anything. Once I had to visit her grandma for her just so she would do the dishes.
Her grandma didn't mind?
She could no longer tell the difference. Like I said, my old roommate's a bitch.
Ronnie couldn't hold back her laughter. This is perfect, your old roommate sounds fun. And you know, we don't have any money, but we do have a handsome doctor to spare. It could be a trap. Josephine used your name when she entered the gardens. By now we can be pretty damn sure they've connected you to us. And you and this girl used to live together. They must know that as well. Well, they haven't showed up here yet, and Amy's old roommate doesn't seem like she'd be the most reliable of agents. No, but they could be keeping tabs on her. There must be another way.
This is certainly the fastest. Ronnie and I can watch over you, monitor the room.
She must be at least 10 years younger than me. Oh, I see what's going on. You're nervous because a pretty girl asked you out. Shut the fuck up. This is serious.
It is. I'm sorry, Norbert, but we have to do this.
Why? Because there's no other way, and we're in a hurry. But also because we think this is kind of hilarious. What if they tail me from the restaurant to here?
We won't come back here.
Huh? What's on your mind?
Simple. We don't make it a dinner, we make it a lunch. At some place near City Hall.
There's a great Italian place just outside the plaza. Had plenty of dates there.
And then? During the date, we monitor the room, keep an eye on City Hall, see if we can find an entrance. You tell your friend to bring the acid with her to the date. When we're... as soon as you're done having lunch, we'll all drop a tab of that. Then we'll move straight to the heist.
Take the acid, leave the cannoli.
Then we'll move straight to the heist. Really spice up the heist this time.
There we go.
All of us? No, we'll need all of us when we hit Central Water Supply, but City Hall is more public. A big group will just attract attention. So, me and Bob. You'll wait here with the chopper. The hospital chopper?
That no one has come looking for?
Yeah. Suspension of disbelief. Yes, there's no way we can sneak into that fortress through the doors. The roof is our best option. Shouldn't we keep Ronnie here? She's our only pilot. I can come with you.
Unless they run into any trouble at all, in which case I'm the only one they can count on to bash heads.
My thoughts exactly. Are you okay with this, Norbert?
I guess so. Plan might work. Can you at least tell me something about this girl?
She's ridiculously pretty, studies chemistry, likes basketball, and she's our only hope. You could do a lot worse on a lunch date with a stranger.
I hope she understands that it'll just be that one lunch.
And I think our operation would benefit from her not knowing that. Relax a little, it's just a lunch. You might actually have a good time.
Norbert gave Josephine an apologetic smile, and she replied with an amused one. All right, then. Suppose going on a lunch date is the least dangerous thing I've done in public in the last couple months.
I sure wouldn't mind being included in these planning sessions. Sorry, Bob, this planning session wasn't planned. We'll get you up to speed. It can wait, they started it. They've started what? Killing people is what. They've tripled the price of water for two of the poorest slums. Cops are patrolling the streets, snuffing out resistance.
Oh shit.
Tomorrow, when people can't pay their bills, they'll cut the water and then evict them. It's too soon. Francis has moved his plans forward for some reason. Makes no sense. The central water supply is barely ready, and Neptus has suffered bad PR lately. Why are they in such a hurry all of a sudden? Francis is smarter than this.
Because of you.
What?
You confronted Francis yesterday. By now he knows exactly where in the gardens you were, and what you found out. He's trying to provoke us, to bait us into exposing ourselves.
Of course. Norbert is right. Francis knows that we're a credible threat. The bombing, the protests, Josephine infiltrating the gardens, giving him the finger and then evading capture. They want us to do something rash and desperate so they can take us out before proceeding with their master plan.
Josephine thought about it. It made sense. After their confrontation in the elevator, Francis had every reason to be concerned.
In that case, it's high time we took the bait. See if we can't schedule the date for tomorrow.
It's too soon. We don't even know where they keep the contracts beyond the general location.
City Hall has archives. I'm almost certain it's in there somewhere. As for the central water supply, I have an idea. We breaking into City Hall? They are. We're on house duty.
No, you're on chopper duty, and you'll get your share of excitement once we hit the water supply. For one, we have no exit plan whatsoever.
Alright, I'm just bummed I don't get to see Norbert's big day. The doc's going on a date. Can't you call her and postpone it until after we save the world?
I wish I could postpone it indefinitely, but she's the one who will get us the acid we need. Can you call her, Amy? Tell her to make it tomorrow?
Call her yourself. She's your date, and reserve 2 tables from that Italian place while you're at it.
We should get ready too. This has to be the craziest stunt we've tried to pull yet.
You say that about every stunt we pull.
And it's been true every time. If this goes on, we'll end up biting off more than we can chew sooner or later.
Then let's hope it'll be later.
As everyone packed their things and got ready, Josephine struggled to use her left hand. She couldn't even make a fist.
You know, if this turns into a fight, you're gonna have to stay back. I'm not left-handed. You're not much of a puncher either. If something happens, promise you'll stay behind Army Girl and let her get you out. I'm not completely helpless, Bob. No, but you should know when a fight's too big for you. The rich girl says it's something men aren't good at knowing, so I guess you should be. Amy's getting through to you? Most of what rich girl says still sounds like nonsense to me, but she's smart. Even if she didn't have money, she still would have gotten into college. She would have gotten some scholarship or whatever. Have you told her that, or thought about using her first name? I'll do that when I see her stand up for working folks, like, really. She's the best rich person I know, but she's still rich. Her dad's a bloodsucker. Hey, I designed the systems Nephthys is using to kill working folks. If you're gonna venture anger at someone, make it me. Nah, I always known you're alright. I felt it in my guts. When?
That one time you punched me in the guts.
You know, that day we became roommates, when I saw you crying, and especially when I heard how you got hurt. Did I ever tell you why I went to that physical therapy where I had the panic attack? I assume the doc told you to. He did, and I didn't want to go. Then they rolled you in, and I was so scared of you I didn't want to be around when you woke up.
Bob laughed warm, genuine laughter.
I'm glad I'm still scary, but I got to say, freaking out some bedridden girl at a hospital was never the point. I appreciate that. What was the point? Huh? Why'd you get so big and scary? I'm big because of years of hard work. I'm scary because, I don't know, where I grew up it was safer to be scary than to be scared. You know, I had to stand my ground. I get it. Sometimes we have to be scary to protect those we care about. Yeah, but for what it's worth, you've come a long way. I don't think there's a big enough person in the world to scare you now. I'm flattered, but you know, I'm still utterly terrified about what we're planning to do. Ronnie's a pessimist, but she has a point. Fear's a healthy attitude. If this is really more than we can chew, I don't see us walking out alive. Me neither. It's been fun, though. Fun? I haven't had a steak in months. When we're done with this, I'm gonna do something a lot less dangerous. Know what else you haven't had in months? A heart attack. I don't see you retiring anytime soon. You know, back when we did that bomb fiasco, some low-life thugs called me Senile Bob. Fucking Senile Bob. They were idiots. I'm sure you could have beaten any one of them. They were younger idiots. Rich girl saved me from taking them on. I am getting old for this kind of stuff. What would you do? Go back to a farm? Who knows? I could grow barley and make my own beer, or raise cattle and make my own steaks. And die a decade before you'll actually go senile? Most likely I'll die tomorrow, but I've no regrets. We left a mark, you know. We have? Yeah, think about those people whose hospital debt we erased. Or the people who didn't have to buy water or meds for a couple days and could spend that money on something else. I bet there's a lot of kids who just got their first ever real toys because of us. I never thought about it that way. I've been a little obsessed with making a bigger and bigger impact hitting Francis where it hurts. Oh, you'll get to hit Francis all right. Right where it hurts. I'll see to that. I meant it metaphorically. Not back at the hospital, you didn't. Just don't hit him with that mangled mess of a hand. Maybe I'll just kick him to death. Before you do that, go watch the doc make that phone call. From what Amy told me, that friend of hers is quite the character. Is he already calling? I wouldn't miss that for the world.
Josephine got up, taking care with her left hand, and went to the living room. Norbert had tried for a while to find a private place to make the phone call, but had given up when Amy and Ronnie wouldn't stop following him. He was already calling. The girl hadn't picked up yet. Oh great, you came to watch the show too?
Yep.
What is your friend's name again? Oh, I know what voice she's getting.
Her name is Beatrice. Beatrice Golden Witch. She likes to flirt, and she likes confidence, so don't be shy.
What if my charm relies on being cutely shy and excessively nice?
Get better at the game then, and if she tries to play games, play along. Especially if
Norbert
it's chess.
I've never been any good at chess. Hey Beatrice, it's me, Norbert. I was wondering, are you busy tomorrow? I just thought, why wait till next weekend? Want to have lunch? No, I think we should meet for a bite first. Call me old-fashioned. Actually, this Italian place I've been meaning to try out. Come on, Doc. Old-fashioned is code for either conservative or boring. You don't want to be either. There was some laughter. Norbert made one final attempt to exit the room, but Ronnie blocked him with her leg. Oh, no, not like that. I said old-fashioned, not 73.
He is bad at this. I'll be honest, I expected him to be better. A handsome doctor with a good heart.
No, of course not. Don't say that. I'm glad you suggested this. Amy's told me a lot of good things about you.
She's gonna ask what?
Basketball. Of course she is. And she told me you were really pretty idiot.
I knew it.
I did see you when you were speaking to her. She also told me that you're a very talented chemist.
So now we have hot, I guess, and nerdy. Really showering her with compliments.
Bob joined them, saw the way Norbert was pacing around the room nervously, and burst into laughter. Norbert let out a desperate sigh. No, I'm not bored. That was just a colleague of mine is teasing me about this. Not that I need their support, it's that they won't leave me alone. Norbert closed his eyes for a while. Josephine wasn't sure if he was listening intently or thinking hard. Oh, I don't really mind. They're just jealous that I have a date. I don't say anything bad about them, but, you know, people like to look at the things they don't have. Josephine smiled and gave Norbert a thumbs up. Ronnie grinned and gave him the finger.
This is either really bad or really good.
So it's a date then. Amy gave him a fist bump. Oh yeah, and don't forget to bring that gift for Amy. Yes, too. She's just a friend. I don't know if she's seeing anyone. No, she's my friend, like I said. I understand. Can't wait till tomorrow. Great, I'll see you then. Goodbye. Norbert turned around, smiling triumphantly. You guys didn't help at all, but I have a date now.
It's a miracle you do, given how you started it.
What did I do wrong exactly?
You lied to her that I'd told great things about her, then couldn't make up anything better than you're pretty.
That did kind of sound like a little boy speaking on the phone to the new stepmom they're about to meet for the first time and already hate. Fine, I'll keep that in mind for my next blind date. Hey, who knows? Maybe this is the one.
Yeah, maybe you'll never date again, and Beatrice will take my place in our group. Your place. It's me or her, Bob. Me or her.
She didn't make it any easier. For a while there, I thought she was going to twist my words until she had reason to cancel. You gave her pretty good reasons to cancel.
No, he didn't. He was sweet. We're proud of you, Norbert. And you were never really in danger of getting turned down. She's like a cat. She likes to play with her food.
Hey, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like a margarita. Does a girl have to drink alone?
If it's just margaritas, yes. But I can join you for a beer.
Okay, I feel like you've never had a margarita because have you like felt how hard a good margarita will hit you? Bob, I feel like you're judging a drink.
I only drink stuff that doesn't taste as good because it's manly.
You sound like a sad shell of a person. I have to admit, my throat is a little dry after that ordeal. Maybe I could go for some... Oh, maybe I'll have a little wine cooler.
Azima.
3 margaritas it is.
Didn't you hear? I'm having a beer.
We're out of beer. You drank it all. Josephine sat next to Amy. Was she taller than her? Josephine could have sworn she didn't used to be.
It's funny. What is? A few months ago, the knowledge that one of my friends was going out with a doctor would have been the absolute biggest thing in the world. Now it is, but for really different reasons. Really? Bigger than your organization? Bigger than whatever demonstration you were planning? I'll be honest, for most students, all those unions are just a meat market. I can imagine. That part of university I do remember. You've never talked much about your studies. Student life was never important for me. I just wanted to get out and have a career. Now I kind of regret not having more fun at university or being more active. I think you got the activism part covered. To be honest, I was always really scared to graduate. There aren't a lot of jobs for gender studies majors. Well, with your talents and moral compass even, have you considered politics? I'd say that in politics, the moral compass is more a hindrance than an advantage. I'm also unsure how employers are going to react to the part of my resume titled terrorist activities. You know what they say, you should keep your resume brief and to the point. No need to mention all your hobbies. Indeed. I don't know. Right now worrying about getting a job seems pretty pointless. There's no going back from what we're doing. I'm sure your family has influence. Your father could arrange you a comfortable exile, somewhere nice and warm. Are you testing me? Because I'm neck deep in this, just like you. There's no way I'm gonna beg my father to save my ass. Sorry. No, of course not. I trust you more than anyone. I just... You know, sometimes I worry you've thrown your life away by joining us. I don't. I've helped people. Here we don't waste time in networking or petty politics or writing witty editorials. We're fighting for a better world. Like, actually fighting. Of course it's been scary and dangerous, but it's also been exhilarating and cathartic. I've never had so much purpose, and winning has never felt so good. Come to think of it, I don't think I'll be going back to school. Not even when we bring down Nephthys. Don't say that. You're too smart to spend your nights and days breaking water pipes. You could have a career, a normal life with friends. You mean I could have all the things you did until you decided you wanted this instead? You have a point. Anyway, don't take any of this the wrong way. I'm glad you're here. We wouldn't have made it this far without you. Thanks, but please stop trying to make me go back to a responsible life. I hated it. I'll remember that. You're a good friend, Amy.
Aww.
You too. Just be careful tomorrow, okay?
No.
I will. You too.
Later over dinner, they discussed the details of the heist to come.
So, did she play hard to get?
Not really. She tried to move the meeting straight to her flat.
Oh, she's being straightforward then.
Most definitely, yes. Meet at the restaurant. She'll bring 2 vials of acid. Wait, that's it? How big are these 2 vials of acid going to be enough?
I don't know. Maybe they're big vials, maybe they're tiny discs.
She thinks Amy plans to use it for some demonstration.
Maybe it's those mini CDs. They're like that big around.
Okay. Yeah, no, I see it.
I'm holding
no
it
one
up
else
to the,
does.
I'm holding it up to the mic so they can see.
Okay, thank you.
Sounds plausible. Listen, Ronnie and I will be there, not far from you. She shouldn't know our faces.
If she does recognize you, then we'll know she works for Nephthys.
Exactly, and then we run like hell. Also, we have to be on the lookout for potential tails. Maybe even Knuckles.
I was just thinking that. I do want to be more like Knuckles. He don't chuckle, you know. Thinking maybe one of you could arrive at the restaurant early and the other follow her as she arrives.
Good idea. When you meet her, pay attention to what she says. If she asks strange questions or tries to lure you to a less public space...
Based on that phone call, I'm pretty sure she's going to try to lure me to a less public space. If she does, you'll just have to politely reschedule. Quit your smirking. If she does, I'll politely refuse.
You should, but remember, it's probably smart if you feign interest in her advances.
Ugh. As long as there's not a dating minigame. Who knows, maybe you won't have to fake it. You'll really enjoy this, aren't you? If anything, I'm jealous. Going on hot dates is the best kind of activism I know.
You shouldn't be. Beato is really kind of terrible.
Oh, we're running with this, are we? We're taking this and we're just running with it.
Yeah.
All right.
You really don't like that girl, do you? Nope, but Norbert might.
Sigh. You know you just said the word sigh out loud, right? Yes, I know. That night, Ronnie made tacos again. The group ate in a more or less undisturbed silence. Tomorrow they'd either erase Nephthys' possessions or be erased themselves. Once again, there was a pouring thunderstorm of rain outside. Josephine and Ronnie shared a look as the downpour beat the windows. It reminded them of the last night at their home. Josephine felt a sting of pain in her injured hand. How is your hand?
It's not great. It'll take a long time to heal, but we can't wait that long, especially not now.
Remind me to give you painkillers tomorrow.
So, what is it exactly that you want us to do here? Yeah, no one's really explained that to us. First, I want you to look for any information on where we might find those metal plates. Any intel on either one will be a huge help. Where are we supposed to find that? Isn't that stuff classified? I honestly don't know. If nothing comes up, we'll just have to locate them on our own. What else besides intel? Well, I was thinking AMD, maybe, as a backup. The Threadripper is pretty great, actually.
Oh my God. Watch all the news channels. If they send another army of security guards against us, a heads up would be nice.
We also have to monitor the situation in the neighborhoods that are going thirsty. I don't want to lose any lives there.
You know, even if we pull this off, it's not going to end Nephthys at a stroke. They might still bring their plan to fruition.
I know, but they'll be more vulnerable. If enough people sue them for water, we might be able to publish their plans.
You could call Tina McAllister.
Sure, why not? But that's in the future. Right now, let's focus on what's truly important. Celebrating Norbert's big date. I'll drink to that.
Everyone's got their priorities straight. That night, as Josephine was brushing her teeth, Norbert came to the door. Sorry, I can wait. She spat.
Come on in.
Thank you.
How are you feeling?
I'm worried, but I always am. City Hall isn't going to be a picnic.
It will be compared to the central water supply. We brought sandwiches and, kettle chips, potato salad. Anyway, it's as much a fortress as the gardens, and there won't be open doors.
Thank you, that alleviates my concerns for tomorrow.
What about your feelings of wasting your talents? Do you still think that?
Not after hearing what Nephthys is planning. I mean, it sure would be nice to practice medicine again someday, but right now, this is the fight that matters.
I'm glad to hear that. I hope you'll get back to doing what you love eventually.
If I spend the rest of my life saving the world with you, it'll be a life well spent.
You know, for a really long time, seeing your face was difficult for me.
I know, seeing my face is difficult for me as well.
No, I mean, I look at it and it just kind of swim around, and I just like, it didn't, I don't know.
I'm sorry, what?
Don't take it the wrong way. It's just,
What way should I take it?
you were the first person I met after I woke up. Somehow I connected you to what happened before.
Your mind connected me to the massacre.
Well, yeah, because, you know, in my head there's nothing between getting shot and meeting you. They're like the same event. But then I got to know you. Turns out you were the one to pull me out of that nightmare.
Every doctor likes to hear that, but I don't think that's true. Your recovery must have felt slow to you, but many people never recover from that kind of trauma. You recovered very quickly, and you did it by yourself.
You know, you don't have to give me pep talks anymore. I'm feeling much better now. Stronger.
Even with your hand shredded?
Even with that.
Now is your borderline pathological obsession with getting back at Francis, no matter what the cost.
Alive and well, really milking that one.
Excellent. In that case, Miss Lace, as your doctor, I declare your treatment concluded.
Thanks. You'll still worry about my heart and clean my wounds, I hope?
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Good. We should get some rest now. Sleep well.
You too, although I'm not going to tell you the story now. Josephine left the room, but Norbert stayed behind, frowning and lost in thought. It was a busy day at the restaurant. Cena Italiana. The previous night's rains were but a distant memory as the city center was awash in bright sunlight. Also, it's really hard to tell where this is taking place. Like, I guess somewhere in the US?
I don't know, it's unclear.
Clearly it's on Earth because stuff like Italy still exists.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not the only place because other cities and stuff exist.
Could be anywhere. Could be
nowhere.
nowhere.
I've been trying to compare it to cities that I know of, and close thing I can think of might be somewhere in Nevada, like Las Vegas. But I don't. That's just a stretch. The Italian restaurant they'd chosen was opposite City Hall. The plaza in between was full of people going about their business, looking important. This wasn't the gardens where the richest of the rich spent their days. Here swarmed all those investors, brokers, and entrepreneurs who really wanted to make it to the top, but hadn't yet. And there were thousands of them. Keeping tabs on whether or not they were being watched was pretty much impossible. Sitting alone in a restaurant was even worse. Josephine had already very bluntly driven away 3 men. She had volunteered to scout the place ahead of the others. Soon Norbert would show up with Beatrice, and then Ronnie would make her entrance shortly after that. The restaurant was loud and pretty full. Only the reserved tables were available. She wondered how many business meetings she could eavesdrop on simultaneously. She felt her pocket. There was something in there. The drive with Nephthys' plans. Was she really this sloppy? She'd just forgotten it in her pocket, the key to their whole plan. Time she began to feel confident that she had what this fight would take. Something like this happened. Something reminded her that just a few months ago she worked at an office. She was not a professional revolutionary. If that even was a thing. She sipped her drink. It was cold. It calmed her nerves. Like everything here, it was ridiculously expensive, but good. She found herself looking into its orange depths much more than her surroundings. The waiting was the worst. The city hall had seen better days. It was a large building, but not particularly beautiful. The clock on its tower had stopped long ago. What does that say in the corner there? A-cab.
Ha!
Nice!
Got him.
Wait, Illuminati confirmed?
Illuminati confirmed.
Oh my gosh. None of the important people crossing the plaza were headed there. It wasn't the place where decisions were made anymore. The only indicator of the place's importance was the company of the armed guards surrounding it. With their rifles and black masks, they looked just like the ones that had murdered all her neighbors. And here they were, protecting the city's heart. Over the noise in the restaurant, she suddenly heard Norbert speaking. She turned to look over her shoulder and saw them. Beatrice with a thin blonde... Of course! About the same age as Amy. Well, she has freckles, but she had freckles and a dazzling smile. Josephine hated her instantly. Wait, she wasn't jealous, was she? She was better than that, she told herself. The feeling evaporated as soon as she caught a glimpse of Norbert's face. The doctor was visibly uncomfortable. He gave Josephine a look, and she responded by nodding slightly. As far as she'd seen, every guest that had been there when she arrived had left by now, No one was watching them. Everything all right? A waiter asked her while serving a complimentary glass of fresh water with plenty of ice.
Yes, thank you. Still waiting for my friend.
Let me know if you need anything. Josephine nodded, smiling, and the man left. The water was perfectly chilled, completely clear, and seemed very high quality. Josephine didn't touch it. She couldn't. Not while knowing how many were being driven to desperation through thirst as she sat there watching the wealthy sip their martinis and chat pleasantries. Her hands still hurt like hell. Throbs of pain came at regular intervals, like a slowed-down heartbeat, a pulse of agony. She considered taking the ice out of her water and using them to numb the hand, but decided against it. She glanced at the man who treated her wounds these past months. Norbert was employing his usual charm, telling jokes, being nice, and an all-around proper gentleman. Josephine wondered if Norbert used to do it a lot. Being charming definitely came in handy when trying to build trust with deeply traumatized patients. She wondered how much of Norbert's initial niceness to her had just been part of the job. She tried to shake away the nasty thoughts and blushed after realizing she'd actually shaken her head. Where on earth was Ronnie? There you are.
What took you so long?
I made sure the lovebirds weren't being followed. They weren't.
Hiding out in this mass of people is easy. They could be anywhere.
More likely they're using cameras and satellites. How's the date going?
Beatrice seems to be having fun. Norbert not so much, though he is loosening up.
He's a real charmer. He'll get us the acid and that girl's address. What are you having?
Aperol Spritz. It's good, if horribly expensive.
My kind of drink. Is Norbert Seed even old enough to drink?
I know. When did they start letting kids into bars?
The doc seems to be wondering it too.
He should be ashamed. He could be that girl's much older brother.
Exactly. They laughed while the waiter brought Ronnie the same kind of orange drink that Josephine was having.
Check out City Hall. It's certainly guarded.
Yep, and we won't have disguises or anything. No going through the front door this time.
Any suggestions?
Thinking there has to be a kitchen there. Lunching is all politicians do.
And that kitchen would have its own entrance for supplies and trash.
Precisely. As soon as that mating ritual concludes, we'll circle the building. A long silence followed. So the situation is a bit weird.
More than most. Thank God you're here, otherwise it would just be me and my thoughts.
What were you thinking about? Revenge? Josephine bit her lip. She owed Ronnie some honesty.
No, I was thinking how much I hate that girl.
Ronnie nodded understandingly. I understand, sort of. It pisses me off, but I get it.
No, you don't, because I don't either. I've never been this torn in my life.
Torn in what way? Between options?
Yeah, I was thinking about call options, put options, other sorts of financial derivatives. I'm very torn over my investment strategy.
I'm gonna drop another save.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Bold to not save rotate, huh?
Yeah, I don't... It's a linear... Stop this!
Between you two, that's why I've been postponing the decision. I don't want either of you to feel like you have to compete with someone.
What if there's a pick a third option for a polycule?
Neither of you deserve that.
That can't be easy. I get you, Joe. It's just, I won't wait forever, you know? I'll never leave your side or stop being your friend. I'm just not going to vie for your affections.
Sure, I understand. Will you give me time until there's a more peaceful moment? When this is all behind us?
Is that day going to come? Ever? We've been fighting the whole time I've known you, and nothing indicates that that's going to change. Do you remember that rainy night back at the house? When that huge storm filled the tanks and everyone celebrated outside?
I'll never forget it.
I was coming to kiss you.
You were?
Absolutely. Then you got the call and disappeared to piss off Francis, and the moment passed. Then it passed us by again at the water shop. And now I'm thinking, what if the right moment never comes? Josephine looked into her eyes. They were dark, deep, and never-ending. Suddenly she could see their long fight from her point of view. She'd more or less died the day after the storm, and Ronnie had been in the dark for months, never giving up until she found her.
How about right now?
And Josephine kissed her. She tasted like the orange liquor she was drinking, but also warm and soft and sweet. Josephine could feel the tingle up in her ears and down in her toes. Slowly she pulled back. Thanks.
It was long overdue.
Her heart beat faster than usual. A warm feeling enveloped her.
Oh shit, I'm too gay, it'll make me die faster.
Then she glimpsed at Norbert and immediately came crashing down. There was no mistaking Norbert's face. He'd seen. Well, I guess as they say, zippity zooty, go get that booty. That's what they say, right? Okay. It's time.
Hello, Fortnite gamers. It's me, Beatrice.
What, do you need my mother's credit card number? The 3 digits on the back?
So, what kind of a doctor are you exactly?
I designed cyber... Well, you know, I designed cybernetics. Hearts, mostly. I designed cybernetics. Hearts, mostly. So far, the date had been going well. Norbert and Beatrice had made it to the restaurant and ordered lunch. Beatrice, for all the talk about her supposed wickedness, was a perfectly pleasant company. As she sipped her aperitif, her brown eyes were fixed on Norbert. Josephine was sitting alone on the other side of the room.
A handsome doctor who literally fixes broken hearts? You know what they say about love, huh?
No, we don't.
Without it, it cannot be seen. I thought
I can see perfectly fine.
Anyway.
I've actually got 20/20 vision.
Anyway, the ladies must be all over you.
I don't know about that.
Don't be silly now. So, what's the deal with Amy? Did I step on her toes when I asked you out?
Amy's just a friend.
Sure, but let's refocus on the toes. Anyway, you just happened to be at her place when she called me. Don't worry, I'm not jealous. You don't have to hide it. I don't mind sharing.
It's not like that at all. We've been working together for our activist group.
What does a grown-up doctor do with a bunch of idealistic students? Don't you feel out of place?
I feel out of place on this date, Norbert thought. He glanced at Josephine. She smiled at him and gave him a slight nod. Norbert took a deep breath. Stay focused, he told himself. Beatrice was questioning him harder than he was comfortable with. Suspiciously hard, in fact. He decided to switch topics. Why should I? There's smart people who care about the world and like helping. But let's talk about you. What do you do, aside from studying chemistry?
And blackmailing people to go on dates with me? I'm starting an internship with a pesticide company next month, and in between I play chess.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've never learned much about chess aside from, I think they call it the bong cloud.
Well, I'll teach you a thing. You have to spin the board around.
I don't think that's how one plays chess.
It is when you play me. Anyway, I'm going to be wearing a white coat like yours.
The coat really is the best part of the job. People will listen to anything you say if you're wearing a lab coat.
It must be tempting to misuse that power.
It's difficult enough to use it properly, let alone think of ways to abuse it. For me, at least.
I can think of like 10 ways to abuse that power.
All right, name
right
them.
now. No. That's number 1. It must feel good to help so many people. How do you have time for activism while working hospital hours?
How had she turned the conversation back to him so quickly? Norbert was sweating. What if Beatrice was in fact with Nephthys? Honestly, coffee. When you have much to do, you don't get to sleep that much.
It's good to know nothing essential about life changes after graduation.
Out of the corner of his eye, Norbert saw Ronnie sit next to Josephine. Good. Much as he hated to admit it, he was far less worried about Josephine's safety with Ronnie near her. He couldn't help but think everyone passing the restaurant was secretly observing them. A few months outside the law certainly did wonders to one's paranoia.
Do I bore you? You don't seem to be fully here.
I'm sorry, I'm just nervous about the thing.
I find a little danger exciting. It wouldn't be as fun without the risk. Tell you what, I'll give you a taste.
I feel like you're dropping references to something I don't fully understand. And if I were, I feel like it would take maybe like upwards of 100 hours to get the entire picture, so...
I'm pretty sure you do understand the references. You were talking about small bombs like last episode.
What? Who has small bombs? Beatrice pushed something towards him under the table. Norbert took it and glanced at it. What am I holding? The object resembled an hourglass, had 2 large containers joined by a small device in the center. One of the containers was empty, the other looked like it had water in it. The device had only a single round button covered by a plastic shield.
That's an acid container. It's pretty simple. Whatever you wish to melt, you put in the empty container. Then you press the button. A vent opens, and the acid passes to the other chamber. This is the only safe way to handle it.
And if we needed to melt something bigger?
Amy assured me the objects would be small. The only option really is a bigger device.
How strong is the container?
It's solid enough. Don't beat it with a hammer and you should be fine.
And if someone did hammer it?
Stuff in there is one of the most corrosive superacids on the planet. It's toxic, melts nearly anything except that container, and reacts violently to even mild humidity.
I see. What if I intended to take this somewhere with lots of water?
What are you planning to do? Melt all the cigarette stumps in the ocean? Don't break the container and humidity won't get in. Also, don't put water in the empty container.
Hand me that spoon, will you? Beatrice handed him a spoon. Quickly, Norbert opened the empty half under the table and slipped the spoon inside. Then he closed the hatch and pressed the button. A satisfying hiss signaled to him the acid was working. By the time he looked, the spoon was already gone.
Don't you trust me, Doctor?
It never hurts to be sure. It certainly will. Thank you for this.
Always a pleasure to help the good guys. Say, where are you headed after this?
To work. Sort of. I have a meeting.
How about you reschedule? I just bought a nurse costume for Halloween, and I was wondering if you wanted to help me try it on.
Her huge brown eyes were full of mischief. Norbert's throat was suddenly very dry. That is a very tempting offer. Sadly, my boss won't let slide if I skip this meeting.
Then I'd like to ask, which is more important to you? A meeting with your boss, or getting that second dose of acid?
What do you mean?
Could be. I left it at my apartment, right next to my nurse outfit.
Norbert took a deep breath. He should have expected something like this, given all that Amy had told him. She smiled the broadest smile he'd seen. Obviously, this was the best part of the date for her. I think you would have it on you. You had no way of knowing whether I'd be someone you could like to try on outfits with.
I was fairly confident already. That's why I came.
She likes to play games, he thought, and it's my move. How about we schedule that fitting for tomorrow?
How do I know you won't be busy with work tomorrow?
I am. I was thinking you could come to the hospital where your outfit there. I have plenty of free rooms that I have the keys to. Beatrice was silent. Clearly, she hadn't expected a counteroffer this frank from the shy and kind doctor.
How positively scandalous. How about we make it a date, and I'll bring you a bottle of wine and the acid container?
Drinking during work hours would be very unprofessional for a doctor. You wouldn't want to risk lives, would you?
What did I say about risk?
You wouldn't want to risk lives, would you? Would you?
Just the acid then, or maybe some ice-cold lemon water in case we need refreshments.
I'm afraid I'll need the acid now.
And how will I know that you won't leave me standing outside the hospital in my not very warm nurse dress?
Don't you trust my desire to help you with your costume?
I do, in fact. And I think that once you've helped me, then whoever it is that's been causing you to drift away this entire date will be long forgotten.
Just then, Norbert happened to glimpse at Joe and Ronnie. And for a moment, Beatrice and everyone else at the restaurant disappeared from his world. They were kissing. A burning, suffocating wave of jealousy swept over Norbert as he looked at them. Had Josephine made her choice? Had she chosen her? As their kiss ended, Josephine met his eyes with hers. Her surprise, guilt, and agony were as vivid as they were real, but it did not make him feel better. Crashing back to earth, Norbert turned back to Beatrice, white as a sheet. He struggled for a moment. That is a promise I'd very much like to see you keep.
So, it's a date then?
Yes. And as much as it pains me, we must wrap this one up. I have that surgery.
Meeting, you mean?
Yes. Meeting. She handed him the second container and got up.
Here is your stolen acid. Thank you for lunch. I had a great time. Here's a little something to get you through until tomorrow.
And she gave him a quick but warm kiss. Norbert was still too shaken to respond. He just stood there like a statue.
We'll work on your kissing tomorrow. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to use the restroom.
With that, she walked away. Norbert left a few large bills on the table and stormed off. How's her heart doing?
Wave plays in the distance.
I can't do it. No, I can't do it. Anyway, that was a fun bit.
Yeah,
alright. Ronnie and Josephine got up at the same time as he did, and they slowly converged while crossing the plaza.
Norbert, I can explain.
You don't have to, Joe, I get it. We don't have time for that right now. I got the acid.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we're...
Can we please not talk about this right now? I wish you'd chosen another time and place. I nearly screwed this thing up because of you two. Whoa, back off there. If something didn't go according to plan with that teenager, then that's on you. Did you at least keep an eye on the restaurant while you made out? In fact, we did. All the other customers either left before we did or came in long after. Other people just passed us by. If we were being shadowed, then it's by drone. And did you find an entrance? Or location of the discs? He was supposed to do something useful.
No. Norbert, I'm sorry for what happened, really, but you're venting your anger at the wrong moment.
Fine. I'm sorry, you startled me, but I can handle this like an adult. Any suggestions on how we enter that place? And like an adult, I mean. Well... She came out of the bathroom. Beatrice was crying. A waiter stopped by her side. You did good, Beatrice. We recorded the whole thing.
So, you'll stop them before they do anything illegal?
Remember, they've already committed a lot of crimes. Do you remember the pictures I showed you of that poor boy with the wound on the face?
Yes, I do, but Amy's a good person. They must have tricked her somehow, or lied to her. She needs to be rescued from those terrorists, not arrested.
Sometimes those are the same thing. Don't worry, Beatrice. You've helped her by helping us. Did you give him the acid?
Yes, he tested it, like you said he would.
That's why it had to be real. You're a good actor. We heard everything you said. Distracting him with your seductive skills was a good move.
Yeah, that's why I did it. Look, the doctor isn't bad either. He's like Amy. He's been led astray. It's those two women. He's head over heels in love with one of them. Please, if you could rescue him too, it would mean the world to me in my nurse outfit.
I will do my best, but I must warn you. These operations don't always end with a happy ever after. You were very brave today. I'll make sure you won't be charged for stealing the acid.
Thank you, officer. Can I go now?
You should. The plaza isn't safe today. Go home. As the sobbing Beatrice left, the waiter spoke to his watch. The rats are entering the den. Make sure they don't come out, and commence the raid on the house.
Ooh.
I mean, like, did we expect that they... Yeah, I mean...
It was a bad plan.
Yeah, and it was kind of idealistic to assume that they still hadn't been found out at this point, but... I think it was the best, worst option they had, right? What's that one say over there?
I don't know.
Can't read it from here. The three of them went around the city hall in complete silence. Norbert and Ronnie were both still taut with anger. Josephine felt like ripping out her glowing heart just to get away from the situation. The thought reminded her to check her heart. She still had 2 hours of battery life. The city council still had money to keep the beautiful facade of the city hall in decent repair, but the old building's walls were marred with graffiti. Even politicians rarely came here anymore. Their time was spent chasing the press and potential wealthy donors for their campaigns. The laws and contracts were written by corporate lawyers at places like the Gardens, and then briefly voted on. Ordinary people had no reason to care about City Hall either. Governments had come and gone for decades, but not much had changed, at least for the better. Only the bureaucrats and officials really cherished the memory of City Hall from when it had actually been a center of power. Now it was little more than an elaborate maze of offices and archives, complemented by a few fancy dining rooms. Hope this kitchen plan of yours works. See why they wouldn't guard the kitchen entrance, though. It seems risky. I'm really looking forward to hearing your ideas on how to enter the world's most boring fortified place. Disguises would have helped. Those phony identities, disguises worked at Jenna. They also got us split up and nearly killed.
Guys, stop. We've improvised before. Ronnie, if we have to talk to someone, could you pretend to be a guest chef?
You mean someone called in to make food for someone special? I guess, though. I don't look the part and you guys even less.
I can be your assistant and Norbert your bodyguard.
Dr. Teddy Bear is my bodyguard? Not even my niece would buy that. Be my saucier if he lets me do the talking. Fine. I'll be your whatever.
See, it's not that hard. We can do this.
You're not helping us with the lecturing, Josephine. Look, Teddy Bear, if you got a problem, then vent it at me, okay? Joe has done nothing wrong. Only problem with you right now is that nickname. I suggest you stop using it. And I suggest you man up so I don't see you as a useless teddy bear.
Guys, we're there.
They stopped. They were in an empty, narrow alley that would circle the city hall eventually. The buildings around them were tall and only a thin sliver of light made it to the bottom. The gap between the buildings seemed small enough to jump over. Down here the air was heavy and smelled of trash and sewage. A short walk away there was indeed a back door to the hall. It was guarded. Josephine remembered Ronnie's words about leading.
Alright, pull together now. Lives are in the balance, and not just our own.
They approached the guard. He wasn't one of those highly trained security professionals. You could tell that from miles away. The man was at least Bob's age, and much smaller except in the belly. The mere weight of his vest and gun seemed too much for the old man. This entry is for personnel only. Customers to the services at the city hall must go to the front. Sorry for the inconvenience. I'm sorry, do I look like some bored retiree who's eager to find out what their great-granddad did in the war? No, miss, you do not. Alright then, do we look like some couple who have a surprise baby coming up and can't afford a real wedding? There's 3 of you. Your arithmetic skills astound me. We, good sir, are no customers to this sorry relic, a beacon that shall bring new light to it. Huh? I am Indira Gandhi, the best chef who ever made Indian cuisine in this city. It's my assistant Maggie and my saucier, Teddy. So you're headed for the kitchen? Yes, can you let us pass? Sorry, but for that you need a permit. You can go around and speak to customer service. The only times I speak to customer service are when I scold my pilot. I think I'd rather speak to your manager. Lady, you need to calm down. You can go around and... The lady doesn't have time to do that. She's in a hurry to cook for the visiting ambassadors. Anything we can do to speed up the process. The guard squinted with his small eyes. You're suggesting a bribe? Because that would mean I have to arrest you for attempting it. He put his hand on his gun. Ronnie put her hand in her pocket. Josephine was close enough to sense the tension in her muscles.
He wasn't. He was merely asking for directions. Do you know which way around is fastest?
Oh, I see. Keep walking to the left till you get to a small alley. It looks nasty, but it's the fastest way.
Thank you. We'll come back with the permits.
The guard nodded professionally. Once they were around the corner again, Josephine took a deep breath. She could sense what was coming. What is going on in your head? Why on earth would you try to bribe a guard? Could have gotten us killed, you fucking idiot. Your over-the-top prima donna act wasn't getting us anywhere either. I had to do something. We agreed that you would let me talk. Now you decided that you would talk. I was going to let you, but it turns out you suck at it. Is beating people up the only thing you're actually good at?
Guys, we don't have time for this. We have to find a new way in.
Which we wouldn't have to if...
Ronnie, back at Amy's you insisted that I lead you. That also means you both have to do what I say when we're on a job.
Of course, Josephine, we all agreed we would.
Shut up, you're just as guilty of lashing out as Ronnie. We'll never even get in if you two keep sabotaging each other. We have a job to do. It's the hardest, most dangerous, and the most important so far. I need you to pull together and focus. Can you do that?
Of course. I apologize. I'm sorry too, Joe. I'm glad you're taking charge.
I wish I didn't have to. Now, give me real ideas on how to enter this building. I'm itching to melt a certain block of metal.
For a moment, they were silent. What about the roof? That next building is so close we could probably jump from there or find something to use as a bridge. Wouldn't we be incredibly exposed on the roof? I'm sorry, do you want to try the bribery again? You know what?
Guys, seriously. The roof could work, but finding an entrance to the other building would be one hell of a detour.
What if we didn't enter it?
What do you mean?
I mean, the city hall doesn't have a fire escape, but that building definitely should.
Climbing 10 stories up a wall on an exposed ladder and then jumping over a gaping chasm? You two know how to make my day.
Then let's not waste any more time.
Oh, and Ronnie?
Yes?
Indira Gandhi? Seriously?
Well, the guard didn't look like he'd know her. I mean, she's been dead 100 years. Alright. They found the fire escape quite easily. Like many things here in the old city center, it was too old, rusty, and hadn't been used in a while.
I do not like this.
Can do it, like you climbed that water pipe once.
Thank you for reminding me of the time I almost died.
It'll be fine, just follow my lead.
No, I'll go first.
Are you sure?
No, but if the world is going to keep making me go to high places, I have to learn not to be afraid of them.
Sighing heavily, Josephine grabbed the ladder and pulled herself up. The steel was ice cold and the dry paint flaked off as she climbed. She had to use both her hands, but bristling pain shot through her wounded hand with every pull. Tried using mostly her healthy hand, but it was difficult. She thought she could feel the ladder shake. She tried to control her breathing. This time it definitely shook. Then she remembered Ronnie and Norbert were climbing right behind her. It was just them, she hoped. All she could see was the brownish concrete wall that was in front of her face. She tried to focus on it, think about its crumbling shapes and forms. A floor passed her by, then another, then a third. Suddenly Josephine realized she wasn't afraid. What was there to fear? She could see where she was going. It wasn't raining, it wasn't dark, she wasn't on a slippery pipe or narrow ledge. A rush of excitement washed over her body. Her hands were tired and stiff from the climb, but she knew she was not going to fall. It felt good. And then she was over the top. Gasping, she stepped onto the concrete roof and sank to her knees. Her heart was pounding. Moments later, when Ronnie emerged, panting and red in the face, she met a grinning, happy Josephine. The heavy wind ruffled their hair. The sun was shining for once, and the rooftops glittered and shone. What are you smiling about? You want something?
I'm fine, actually.
And I'm getting too old for this.
Stop sounding like Bob.
Ronnie made it onto the roof. She was sweating. She smiled back at her. Till they heard a crack and a scream.
Norbert!
The ladder had broken down under him. Ronnie caught his human hand just in time. Grab the ledge, I can't hold you much longer.
I'm trying to!
Josephine rushed in and grabbed Norbert's robot arm with her good one.
We've got you.
I can't grip very hard, you have to do that for me. I'm slipping.
She felt it too. Biting her teeth, she grabbed Norbert with her hurt hand. He squeezed it as hard as his robot arm could. She cried out in pain. But eventually, slowly, they were able to pull Norbert onto the ledge, found a foothold in a crack in the wall, and pushed himself over. They all huddled together on the roof for several minutes. I have to put you on a diet. I could swear you've gained weight.
If I have, it's your fault. Are you alright?
He was talking to Josephine, who noticed that her hand was bleeding through the bandage.
My wound must have opened. I'm sure it's nothing.
Remind me to take a look at it as soon as we're done.
I will. Is your arm working?
Seems to be. I'll run diagnostics later.
Good. We should get going now.
Stay down. I wouldn't be surprised if there were guards on the city hall roof. Slowly they crawled over the roof to the ledge. Ronnie raised her head ever so slightly. I don't see anyone. She peeked a little more over the ledge. That's a 1-meter jump, max. You could almost step over it. Without another word, Ronnie took a few steps back, ran, and leapt over the gap. She landed safely on the other side and pulled her gun instantly. Come on, I'll make sure the coast is clear.
You go first.
Why me?
Because I don't want to.
Fuck this.
Did I just hear Teddy curse? Norbert yelled loudly as he jumped and waved his hands in the air. He too landed safely, if much less gracefully than Ronnie.
Are you okay?
Buster Wolf! Yes, come on.
Josephine tried to do what Ronnie had done, and sure enough, she flew over the gap like it was a puddle on the ground. Then she landed even worse than Norbert, scraping her knee on the barbed concrete. Worse than that, she landed on her bad hand.
Son of a bitch!
Tears came to her eyes, but she was somehow able to swallow her screams. This was not a good day for her hand. Breathing heavily, she got up and cursed her now stiff knee.
I'm okay. Let's move on.
Wait!
Norbert pointed to the nearest corner of the roof. On the ground there was a pile of cigarette stumps. Next to them were binoculars.
Someone's been here.
And they either spend a lot of time here or they smoke 4 packs a day.
This roof is guarded, just not right now.
We got lucky.
No, we didn't. This is our best exit route. Now we know it's compromised. That guard could be back at any moment.
Maybe you should stay here and keep watch. You could also monitor the streets.
And leave Josephine alone so you can get both of you killed? No fucking way.
I'm trying to think of what's best for the team here.
Best for the team would have been for you to stay back so we don't have to keep saving your ass.
Oh, really? You didn't mind me so much when I stitched together that little boy you blew up.
Ronnie punched him. Hard. Norbert fell down like a tree in a storm.
Stop. You two have to stop fighting. That is what is going to get us killed, nothing else. Please, I'm out of stern words. I need both of you. We're going together. We'll just be really careful on the way back. Now will you behave?
Both of them nodded, begrudgingly. Ronnie offered Norbert her hand, but he waved it off and got up on his own.
Okay, we'll save the apologies for later. We have to keep moving. I'm running short on time.
Without saying another word, they went on. There really was no guard on the roof. God knows anyone would have heard the ruckus of the fight. The roof of the city hall was mostly flat, except for the large glass dome that opened up a view of the bottom floor lobby. There didn't seem to be any other way in. There are a lot of people in the lobby. Josephine squinted to see through the twisted, thick glass of the roof, and indeed, the lobby below was crowded with people.
Guys, if you can see them...
Ronnie and Josephine pulled back quickly.
Clearly the way in isn't through the dome. Is there anything else?
There's a hatch. A closed metal hatch reflected back the sunlight. They rushed to it, but there was a huge electric lock blocking access through it. Crap, we don't have any extra acid, do we?
We don't, and I wouldn't want to use it outside the containers anyway. It's dangerous stuff.
I could shoot... Oh
my gosh, I've started to sound like you again. I could shoot the lock, but the noise that it would make probably isn't worth it.
Do we have any options?
There's a balcony we could drop to.
How far is it?
Norbert hung over the ledge.
Just a single floor, I think. If we hang from the ledge, the fall won't be that bad.
Then let's do that. I don't want to start shooting until we have no choice. But let's hurry. We seriously don't have much time.
Norbert nodded and dropped to the balcony with surprising confidence.
It's clear. You can come.
Josephine got up on the ledge and dropped to the hanging from it with her healthy hand. She couldn't hold on for long with just the one arm and dropped down to a small, round balcony. Part of the building's facade and didn't serve much of a practical purpose. On the outside it was covered with beautiful marble. Here on the inside it was just gray concrete. Josephine actually landed in a small puddle of filthy water and even more cigarette stumps. No one ever cleaned this balcony. In front of her there was a glass door so dirty it wasn't transparent anymore. Ronnie dropped behind her with a splash. This balcony makes me sad.
Me too. It's also not meant for 3 people. Shall we?
We shall indeed. Ronnie tried the door. It was locked. She broke it with a single strike. The door opened and they were in.
Finally.
They found themselves in a dark hallway. There were still paintings on the walls, but the wallpaper itself was coming off. All of the rooms were deserted. The floor was a series of glass offices, except the glass was broken. It was dark. The only light came from the dirty windows. The furniture was still there, computers, chairs, and desks, but no one had sat at any of these desks in ages. A thick cloud of dust was in the air.
I don't think this floor is in use anymore.
Can't blame them. It reeks of mold and water damage.
How can City Hall be this derelict? Isn't this where the fate of millions is decided?
I'm starting to think that's decided in places like the gardens. This place is in such a bad shape they should tear it down.
People like Nepthys would probably like to, but they just can't yet. They need the rubber stamp. People must at least think that they're in charge.
Yeah.
Any idea where the archives are?
My money is on the basement. There has to be a vault somewhere down there.
So we have to make our way from the top to the bottom.
And then back to the roof once we're done. This seems like a foolproof plan.
We got lucky with this floor, but there'll definitely be guards in the rest of them.
But you just keep getting lucky, huh?
If only there was an elevator straight from here to the archives.
If there was, we'd probably still need some kind of key.
Wait, there's an elevator and a map.
Indeed, at the other end of the hallway there were 2 elevators, and next to them a map of the building. The elevators were boarded shut. Check the map, it'll look for an emergency stairway. Josephine and Norbert went to the map.
Do you have a light?
Sure, but I didn't think you smoked.
He lit a cigarette lighter.
Wait, do you smoke after all?
Not really, I used to carry it around. I had a habit of allowing myself one whenever a surgery failed.
Out of curiosity, did that happen often?
It doesn't really matter how often it happened. Every time it did, it felt so bad I wanted to quit the job.
We used to do that in the army, too.
Really? Like smoke when you lost people?
Well, have a drink together in silence, but yeah, it's the same idea. I know how that feels.
Huh. I guess I can say the same.
What's the map say?
I was right. The archives are in the basement, and the restricted archives are below them behind a vault door.
So it's a piece of cake, then?
It gets worse. To get to the basement, we need to go to the main lobby. It's the most crowded place in this building.
That could work to our advantage. We're less suspicious there than if they catch us here.
And how will we get to the sub-basement?
There's definitely a lock with a key, and we won't get that key without raising attention.
Should we just not try, then?
What are you thinking?
A distraction of sorts. Oh my gosh. The tension is rising.
Indeed.
The lobby was busy with people. So the whole point was that if they had gone in through the front entrance, then they would have been carded, ID'd, and would have...
Yeah.
Some were civil servants, toiling to keep the wheels of the city running as it should, as it sold itself off bit by bit. Many more were aggrieved citizens, filing complaints about various issues ranging from police brutality to school meals getting worse. A platoon of poorly paid secretaries listened to the complaints, wrote them up, and forwarded them to an office on the top floor of the building. The same top floor where no one had been working for 2 years. Then there were guards in black uniforms, making sure that everyone stayed in their correct, endless lines, and too afraid to get too belligerent. Then there were the few young couples seeking to get married with suspicious speed, and the many more that were seeking a rapid divorce. The revolving doors to the plaza were set to move at a pace just faster than anyone could comfortably walk in, so the stream of people could be managed. All of them were sweating in the blistering heat as the large glass dome amplified the afternoon sunshine. No one noticed an elevator announce its arrival with a loud ding. The doors opened, and Josephine and Norbert stepped out.
You know, this plan is quite possibly the most reckless thing I've done in my life.
Feels good, doesn't it?
Not really, no. Where's the entrance to the archives?
Over there, at the other end of the hallway.
She pointed to a small door at the other end. There was a short line of elderly people being served by a single bald clerk.
Why are they all so old?
The archives are full of history. Young people are less occupied with the past, I guess.
Getting there through this mass of people might be difficult.
We don't have much time. I want to be close when Ronnie does her thing.
Something tells me those guards won't like it if we smash through all these lines.
No, we must do it their way.
With that, she walked up to the nearest armed guard.
Excuse me?
Yeah, what? The man turned around, Josephine froze. He was wearing the same black uniform and mask as the men in the courtyard on that other much rainier day. She was sure of it. This man worked for whatever company had committed the massacre at her home. How can I help you, miss?
We're looking for the archives. We're doing research into our family history.
I see it's that way. There's a lane through the waiting queues right there. My colleague is standing.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
Likewise. Norbert dragged away a frozen Josephine.
What on earth just happened?
Remember in the hospital when I thought some cleaners were security people out to kill me?
I do. You were suffering from severe post-traumatic stress. Do you feel that way now? Should we go somewhere safe and calm down?
No, I'm fine. It's just... this time it's them. The crew manning security here is from the same company. They have the same outfits.
Then we must be extra careful. Some of the same individuals could be here. No one must recognize you nor Ronnie.
Well, in about 1 minute, they won't have time to recognize anyone.
But seriously, are you okay?
Yeah, I should be. I have to be.
They made their way to the archive line and settled in behind one of the old ladies. The bald clerk was arguing with a frustrated elderly man. I must apologize, sir, but we do not have the service record of your brother. You must go to the military archive. I can give you directions.
I came all this way. This is the city hall. He fought here in the city. How can't you have his records?
It's funny how no one's ever said the name of the city. Well, if he'd been a policeman, we would, but soldiers are archived elsewhere. I'm very sorry.
If my brother were alive, he would eat you alive. He was a captain, you know, in the Metropolitan Guard.
I cannot help you anymore, sir, I must. Suddenly, a shot was fired. Like a herd of deer in headlights, the people inside froze like statues. Up above, on a balcony overlooking the lobby on the second floor, Ronnie stood on the railing. Death to the corporate sellouts! Death to Neptus! Then she pulled a submachine gun from somewhere and began firing wildly into the air. Alright, where'd you get an SMG? The spray of bullets shattered the glass dome and shards began to fall on the crowd like sharp, heavy snowflakes. People began to scream and stampede for the doors, which were still revolving on their electronically mandated speed that was now far too slow. The guards trying to maintain order were like shepherds trying to stop a tsunami. They were simply outnumbered. As panic erupted, Josephine and Norbert leapt forward. Norbert grabbed the clerk by the hands and Josephine pointed her pistol at him.
You're coming with us. Take your keys.
As they forced the scared, balding man with them to the door, Ronnie climbed down from the balcony and pushed her way to them. It was harder than she had anticipated, and she ended up punching one man who tried, in his panic, to use her as a human shield. There was more gunfire. Either the guards were desperately trying to restore order, or panic was contagious. And they had it too. Either way, there was now a choir of automatic fire echoing in the great hall as the guards shot wildly at the upper floors. Pieces of the crumbling glass dome were still raining on the masses below. Some distraction. Thanks, let's go. If we can get this done before they clear out the civilians, we might use them as cover to get away. I don't understand. What is it you want of me? Don't worry. Just need you to open the door. Nothing more, then we'll let you go. They escaped into the archives and closed the door. Lock it. The dutiful clerk did what he was told, whilst shaking like a leaf. He was, however, unable to stop a stream of people flooding through the doors before that. In fact, Ronnie had to threaten a certain old woman with her gun just to get the doors shut. The doors closed, the roaring loudness of the lobby disappeared in an instant. It was replaced by the cold, quiet solitude of the archives. The only sound came from the few shaking, sobbing civilians trapped inside with them. They stood in a stairwell, maybe a dozen people in all.
Did you have a submachine gun with you this whole time?
Let's just say there's a very thoroughly knocked out guard on the third floor.
Let's go. Everyone, I advise you to stay here. We have business below.
She wasn't sure if the people had any idea what she was saying. It didn't matter. They were frozen in place with fear. Slowly, the four of them moved downstairs with Ronnie keeping the clerk at gunpoint.
Ronnie, did you notice the guards in the lobby?
They literally shot at me. What about them?
They were the same people that came to our building.
Impossible. Those men were trained killers. No way they'd be pulling traffic duty in a crowded lobby.
I'm telling you, the uniforms were identical.
That's weird. Maybe the company they work for has multiple branches.
Yeah, or maybe I'm just jumpy. All this shooting.
I get it. I'm sorry there was no other way to cause mayhem quickly. Would you look at that? They'd reached the end of the stairway. They now stood in the basement holding the city's archives. The room was huge, bigger than the lobby, and probably rectangular. It was impossible to say. Their view was blocked by endless rows of steel shelves, each holding hundreds of meters worth of data stored on small hard drives.
This place must have everything.
Yeah, it would take many lifetimes to read through all of it.
What do they store in here?
Like the cyborg said, everything from court records to censuses to news recordings to pornography.
They store porn here?
Anything that is published in the city, it's all relevant to the historical record.
Huh. Which way to the restricted section?
Just across the hall.
Good, let's go then. My cyborg heart is running out of power at an alarming rate.
They hurried through the vast space as fast as they could make the chubby clerk go. Oh. At the other end, there was indeed a round vault door of reinforced steel.
Open it. I don't have access to that. You have to go back and kidnap my boss if you want to get in there.
Ronnie pressed the poor clerk against the door and pressed the gun to his face. Don't fuck with us. Open the door, or I'll see if I can't make that lock short-circuit by splashing your brains on it.
Shoot me, then no one can open the door.
We don't have to shoot you. There are many parts of you that you don't need for opening it. I might just start removing them. I'm a surgeon, you know.
Please, I'll lose my job if I let you steal from the archive.
We're not looking to steal, just erase.
That's even worse. Then I can't be recovered.
We wish to erase the Nepthys contracts. Let us in and your water bill won't be valid anymore.
What do you mean?
They won't be able to prove that you owe them anything. They'll have to renegotiate their agreements. All of them.
That doesn't sound so bad.
It doesn't, does it? Let us in. Nothing bad will happen to you. Once we're inside, you can go cower in some corner until we're done.
No, I can't. You need me to get the contracts. I'll come with you.
Ronnie gave Josephine a slightly amazed look as the clerk flashed his ID and the door creaked open. Air hissed out when it did.
We're in.
They entered the dark room. It was incredibly cold inside.
Why is it so chilly in here?
Has to be. Some of the documents in here are quite old and delicate. I skip ahead of it.
Call it a preservative.
Call it a preservative.
The room was much smaller than the main archive. There were no cabinets, just frost on the walls. On the ground there were large round plates in neat rows. On the walls there were buttons.
How does this place work?
Without saying a word, the clerk went to the wall and typed a number code. With a loud hiss, one of the plates on the ground began to rise. It rose until it reached roughly Josephine's height. Underneath the plate was a circular cabinet of sorts which emanated a blue light. Around it there were small, round compartments. None were bigger than a box of cigarettes. One of them opened and a small black object emerged. Is that it?
Yeah. God, I love automated libraries.
Yeah. As they heard a noise behind him. As they turned to see, the door had closed and the clerk was gone.
Did you ever go in the secret library at college?
I never did, no.
The research annex?
No, I never had reason to.
That place rules. They have not electric power, but they had like a crank powered.
Yeah, I believe it.
It was really great. Anyway, fuck.
They banged on the door until their hands hurt, to no effect.
We're trapped. There's no way out.
We'll figure something out. Let's do what we came to do. Could we shoot the lock? Oh, bugger. There we go.
A loud noise caused them to turn again. The entire back wall had lit up. It was a screen. On it, there was the smiling face of Francis Brabeck.
Good afternoon, Miss Lace. You fucking... Let me start by telling you to save your breath. Alas, I cannot speak to you directly. This is a pre-recorded message. You see, this vault blocks all incoming signals from the outside to protect the data.
Crap. No calling for a Bob-sized rescue, then.
I must say I'm amazed to see how far you've come. I saw what you did in our archives at the Gardens. It wasn't hard to deduce what you'd do next. Anyway, our little game is at an end. As you know, I must protect our bottom line. And, well, hunting you has been expensive. Personally, I think this is a rather satisfying, humane solution to our unfortunate conflict. The room you're in is currently at roughly negative 16 degrees Celsius. The door has been time-locked to not open under any circumstances before the day after tomorrow. By that time, you will have suffered a fatal heart attack, and your companions-at-arms will have frozen to death. I'm presuming that's Sergeant Janice and Dr. Maturana. Anyway, fear not. Your demise will be swift and that of your friends quite painless. For anyone found at the Sierra residence, I can make no promises. I must say I've enjoyed this little game, though. Corporate life is rarely this exciting. But now it is time to say goodbye. Da 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 da. No, Andrea Bocelli.
Wow, this is elaborate for a pre-recorded message.
I'm sad that our date never came to pass. I'm sure you would have been excellent. Goodbye, Miss Lace.
Francis smiled and the message ended. But the screen remained on, frozen on the smile Josephine had seen so many times. They stood in silence for a long time.
They have Amy and Bob.
They have us.
Amy, I knew the risks. I tried to talk to her yesterday. She was so committed.
Francis was pretty clear about what's going to happen to them.
Well, it has already happened. We haven't had contact with them for hours.
Fuck. How didn't we see this coming? I did this. I used Amy's name at the Gardens. That was stupid.
They were just waiting for us to split up so we'd be easy prey.
And now you can watch me die from a heart attack in about an hour.
And then we can freeze to death slowly afterwards.
And in 2 days, they'll open the doors, bury us into the foundations of some building, and get their plans back. Plans we weren't smart enough to copy.
You have them on you? Josephine nodded.
I just forgot them there. A stupid rookie mistake. We really did bite off more than we could chew.
Ronnie beat the door with her fists. Aside from a loud metallic drumming, the door was indifferent to the beating. It began to dawn on Josephine that she might actually die here. That this little box of steel would be her coffin. For a second, her world was nothing except the door. The whole world was out there, just out of reach. She imagined Francis was there watching the door while Amy and Bob were being dragged to a different dark room to disappear. Of course she knew it was a fantasy. Francis would be sitting in his office at the top floor of the gardens. He wouldn't even come to see the vault opened. Josephine touched the door. She could almost feel fresh air on the other side. She felt like screaming, but what was the point? They had been sealed off so effectively not even cameras saw them. Really going to end like this? A quiet death, locked away just a few meters beneath the room where thousands came by every day? No one, not even the guards on the other side, would hear their sobs or screams or dying throttles. The city would go on. No one would know who they'd been or why they'd died. Maybe years from now, when Nephthys' plan was complete, someone would say, "Hey, remember those water pipe terrorists from years ago? Whatever happened to them?" Josephine bit her lip and pressed her forehead against the cold steel. Norbert placed a hand on her shoulder. "I'll find a way to make your heart last longer. Give us more time to figure this out. I think I might be able to pull power from my arm. I can live without it, but you need your ticker."
That's sweet, but you're more likely to waste time than get it. We have to start making an escape plan immediately. Do you think the cold will affect our modifications?
Your heart should be fine, it's robust. My arm too, but metal is an excellent heat conductor. Every second we're here, my arm is helping heat escape from my body. I'm already shivering.
Norbert punched the door with his steel hand.
I knew there was something fishy about how easily we got in here. Should have been a guard on the roof, and I did get the feeling that Beatrice was questioned.
And you didn't think to tell us? We could all die now because of you.
She kept going on about her red treasured sword.
I had other things on my mind because of you.
Me? I'm sorry if you can't concentrate on the job because your feelings get in the way. And Francis is here in the entire... Yeah.
Oh, shut up, both of you. Norbert, I'm sorry I kissed Ronnie at the restaurant. I really am. The timing couldn't have been worse.
Thank you. It means a lot that you...
Ronnie, I'm sorry I didn't kiss you sooner. I have wanted to since that day we climbed the maintenance ladder together.
It's okay, Joe.
It's my fault we're locked in here. I chose to hit the gardens and make this impossibly dangerous plan and then screw it up by letting feelings get in the way. You two have no reason not to get along besides me. I should have made up my mind, or even better, gotten rid of those feelings and stayed focused. If we die today, it'll be on me. Now, apologize to each other so we can get out of here.
You have a plan?
Not yet, but there's no way I'm letting that smug smile be the last thing I see. So, get on with it.
Sorry I brought up the bombing earlier. I crossed the line there.
You sure did. Guess hitting you wasn't the most mature comeback, though.
Deserved it. I didn't even thank you for saving my life or saving Josephine's countless times.
You brought her back from the dead. You did a miracle. Look, I'm jealous of you. How much time you've gotten to spend with Joe. And of the good influence you've had on her. You make people around you better.
I'm jealous of the past you have with her. Given our circumstances, your ability to protect her. We mustn't let our feelings get in the way of our work ever again. Lives are at stake.
I agree. Let's melt that thing and then get out of here.
Yes, thank you both for everything.
Josephine grabbed the little black thing. It was oddly shaped, like it was made of small metal bars of different sizes. The surface was rough, almost wrinkly. That was the code Josephine knew. Norbert handed her the acid container, and she jammed the thing in there.
Don't even know if this is real. Given how elaborate the trap was, they might have switched it with a fake.
I know, but we can't afford to not destroy it either.
She pressed the button and the acid flowed from one container to another. A black lump of metal began to bubble and corrode instantly. For a while they watched in awe as Beatrice's gift did its thing.
That exploded into golden butterflies.
They sat down and huddled together. To Josephine, their steaming breaths were like a leaking heat pipe. She wondered if holding her breath would help keep her warm.
Norbert?
Yes, that's me.
How did you lose your arm? You never told me back at the hospital.
I promised I'd tell you when you were better, and only then.
Well, to me it looks like you owe the answer. There's a fairly high chance I'll never be better than I am now.
The whole point of it was to motivate you to get better and fight your depression. Now it sounds like you're being all defeatist again.
Oh, I have more motivation than ever. That smile on the back wall, for instance. And I have you guys, and Bob and Amy, who, if they live, need us more than ever. So I think you owe me. You admitted yourself that my treatment was over.
She's got a point, Doc.
You too, huh?
I'm dying to know why there's an ice-cold hand on my shoulder.
All right. I was 7. I ran after a football into the street and a car hit me. I would have died if an old man hadn't leapt in to push me out of the way. It was like the beginning of every isekai film.
I'm sorry.
Don't be for me. The old man died of his injuries. My parents went into debt to get me treatment. I made it through med school one-handed. Then I made a deal with Jenna. 5 years of free labor in exchange for a hand. My parents were supporting me through all that time. They're still paying back. Because I screwed up once.
It's not your fault, Norbert.
She's right. 7-year-olds are dumb. Your family shouldn't have to pay for their kids' one mistake. Been telling myself the same thing, but the guilt remains. I didn't even know that man.
Josephine hugged him tightly.
You've done so much good after that, and you're gonna do more.
Exactly. Let's start thinking of ways to get your magical doctor skills back to the world.
Thank you, Ronnie. You're right. Let's see, outside help is not an option, and this vault looks pretty tightly sealed.
A place like this has got to have a fail-safe system in case someone gets locked in by accident. Any chance it's working?
That would be a miracle. Could we melt the lock?
We don't have extra acid. We need the one we have left.
It's acid. Surely we could use this same batch again? We only melted a little metal with it.
I don't know. The acid could probably do it, but it's dangerous to break the container with people near it.
Does it vaporize?
Yes. Beatrice made it sound pretty nasty.
Can we trust anything she said?
You saw what it did to the files.
Wait a second. Beatrice mentioned that the substance reacts violently to humidity.
There's frost on the walls. Are you saying if we scrape some of it and put it around the lock?
Could amplify the effect. Maybe. But we still need a safe way to break the container without getting burns.
Guys, this is probably our best shot, but I have to point out that there will be armed men outside the door. Lots of them. And Francis went through all this trouble to set this trap. He's not going to take chances.
You're right. We may have to fight our way through.
Exactly. We may have to. I'm going to need the two of you shooting back as well. The gloves are off now.
I can do that. I have to.
Good. And you, Norbert, I respect your values, but we might die here.
I'll do what it takes, but I'm probably more dangerous to myself than the enemy if I take up a gun.
They scraped as much of the ice as they could and stuffed it around the lock until it resembled a white cake.
So, how are we gonna do this?
Give it to me. Ronnie felt the container in her hands, tossed it lightly, and tried the balance.
Are you planning to throw it?
I can make bombs, fly a helicopter, and hack a computer. Are you surprised I can throw knives?
No, not really. At least I shouldn't be.
Yeet! Alright, we only have one shot at this.
2, actually.
We need the other one later.
Shut up, I need to focus.
How am I sweating? It's freezing in here.
Seriously, shut up. They stood at the very back of the room and covered their mouths with their sleeves.
We should all lie down as soon as you throw.
The enemy should lie down right now.
What you should do is shut up. Here goes, be ready. Ronnie threw the container. Yeet! I saw this in a vine once. The archives were quiet again. Clerk, who had served his purpose, had been escorted to safety, the few scared civilians as well. As soon as the door closed, 6 armed men had emerged from hiding behind the shelves. Sergeant Patterson was in command. It wasn't his first rodeo. He'd seen many things. Some of the stuff he'd done he was proud of, like that time some angry right-wing extremists had taken a bus full of children hostage. He'd led the rescue mission. Most of the children had been saved and all terrorists killed. Then there was the days he wasn't proud of, like that rainy morning 6 months ago. The squad he was leading had been there too. The soldiers knew each other, and Pedersen knew he could trust them. It wasn't a coincidence that this critical task had been given to them while the others focused on cleaning the building of civilians. A loud bang awoke him from his thoughts. The lock on the door was hissing and smoking. It took him a moment to realize it was melting. He ordered everyone to be ready. His men had erected sandbag positions with a view of the door. Then in a minute, the acid had melted through the lock. Pedersen was nervous. He knew these terrorists were dangerous. Though he did briefly wonder whether they'd been dangerous before his unit had shot their apartment building to pieces. When the door began to creak open, they began firing into the gap. There was no movement. Sergeant Pedersen gestured to the man next to him, turned on the heavy searchlight they had brought with him, and pointed it at the breach. The sergeant thought about what he should do. He could hold position and order someone to come down with frag grenades, or flamethrower, but that was overkill. The enemy was cornered. He gestured 3 men to follow him, their gas masks on. He approached the door cautiously from all sides. There was no sign of life, but they'd been warned to be careful. Pedersen ordered 2 tear gas grenades to be thrown inside. Then a flash grenade. Then they went inside. Pedersen took the lead. He always thought a good leader shouldn't try to hang back in safety. Maybe that's why he'd never been promoted above sergeant. It was dark, gloomy, and the gas impaired Pedersen's vision quite a bit. There was someone lying on the ground. The sergeant hoisted his rifle. Then Ronnie turned and shot him in the face. The sergeant flew back and dropped his gun. Before he hit the floor, Ronnie was holding the rifle and spraying fire at the doorway. The 3 men who followed Pedersen had barely had time to react. They fell down, one killed instantly by the barrage, the other screaming, spasming, and gasping for air as pain incapacitated them, and blood filled their lungs. Coughing and crying, Ronnie, Josephine, and Norbert emerged from the room. They dove for cover as the 2 remaining soldiers began frantically shooting at them. Ronnie shot back, and Josephine grabbed one of the rifles. Without even thinking about it, she fired towards the enemy. The gun kicked back hard, and she ended up spraying fire all around. She didn't hit anything. Instead, the shaking gun caused her bad hand to tremble in pain. She wasn't a soldier yet, she thought. But Ronnie was. As soon as she was done with the 5th shooter, she turned around and emptied her magazine to the one Josephine had been aiming for. She didn't miss a single shot. The last guard was a young woman. Josephine only realized this when the girl was lying on the ground in a pool of blood, mouth open and gulping like a fish on dry land. She could only imagine she looked exactly the same when she'd been shot.
You just killed 6 people.
They would have killed us. Besides, that one's still trying to breathe. Come on, we can't stay here. Josephine wasn't able to make rational decisions right now. Fortunately, her legs still knew how to run, even if her knees were shaking. They looted the corpses for tear gas grenades, tasers, and rifles. Josephine also took a watch so she could hear the guard comms. They made their way to the archive doors. They too were closed.
What now?
I got one of these! And Norbert flashed a guard ID at the door. It opened smoothly and silently.
Good thinking. What's the plan now?
The fastest way out would be from the ground floor, either through the doors or the windows.
The place must be surrounded, though. Maybe we should go back the way we came. I don't think they'll anticipate us taking that route.
Let's go for the elevator then. Once we're on the roof, we can parkour our way to the next building, or even the one after that. I'm guessing they focus their strength here and at Amy's.
We have to go there.
No, we don't. It's too risky. We get out of here, we find a quiet place to recharge your heart, and make a new plan.
I won't just abandon them.
If they're still alive, then they're being held at the gardens or at the central water supply. Ronnie's right. We can save them later if they have survived. If they're dead, we can avenge them.
Fine. Let's get to the elevator.
Wait, I hate to suggest this, but we should... Should we take the uniforms from the guards? I don't think it'll work. They're all full of holes and soaked with blood.
Yeah, we have a better chance of blending in with the civilians.
Carefully, they snuck up the stairs and peeked into the lobby. Chaos still reigned there. The guards were trying to get people out at the same time they were trying to get reinforcements in. Staying low, the 3 of them followed the walls around the hall. The mass of people had calmed down a bit. Since no one was shooting anymore, people had stopped panicking. Now everyone was just waiting for their turn to get out. The guards had concentrated on the 2nd floor and were directing the situation with loudspeakers. Apparently no one knew that they'd escaped the trap. Not yet, anyway. They would the moment an elevator left.
There's a staff stairwell over there, in the corner!
It's probably safer than the elevator. Let's use it.
They were hiding behind a small desk.
Wait, I hear something.
Josephine was listening to the security comms device they had nicked from downstairs. The voice was Francis.
Archive unit, this is Control. Status report, please. Over. I repeat, Archive unit, this is Control. Status report, please. Over.
Josephine handed the watch to Norbert.
He won't know your voice.
Norbert nodded.
Control, this is Archive unit. Nothing to report. Over.
Archive unit, who is this? Where's Pedersen? Over.
Control, this is Miller. Pedersen was requested upstairs to discuss contingency plans. Should be back shortly. Over.
Archive unit, who authorized this? I specifically ordered your unit to stay in position. Over.
Control, it was Operational Command that issued the order. Over.
This is Operational Command. What is going on there?
Josephine grabbed the device back. It switched channels.
All units, this is Control. There has been a breach in the archives. Secure the location immediately. So much for subtlety.
She got to her feet, hoisted her rifle, then fired a burst at the roof. The panic in the lobby reignited immediately. The guards firing at wherever they thought they'd heard the sound come from made it worse. The people, just seconds ago so calm again, were now charging the doors like spooked cows.
That should cover us. Let's go.
They ran to the stairs and began the steep, long climb. It went faster than they thought it would. Adrenaline carries you a long way. Downstairs, they could hear the gunshots and screams continue. By the 5th floor, Norbert was panting and slowing down. I need a moment to catch my breath.
I promise you there will be rest at the end.
A few times they stopped to listen if guards were coming down the stairs, but that never happened. The gunshots didn't die down, though, which worried Josephine greatly. Eventually, they made it back to the abandoned top floor. It was still completely empty.
Let's get to the roof, then we'll be clear.
There's a ladder. It must lead to the hatch that was locked. We should be able to open it from the inside. Norbert climbed up the steel ladder that was against the wall, and sure enough, there was a handle on the hatch. It was heavy, but after some effort, Norbert pushed it open. Sunlight flooded the dark room. One by one, they climbed the rungs and took a deep breath of fresh air. Damn! The roof had changed since they were last there. For one, the glass dome had been absolutely shattered. Oh, you can see that on the background, too.
Yeah.
Almost nothing of it remained. I didn't do all that. Secondly, there was a guard. He was standing by the hole where the dome had been and was shooting down. The guard was completely oblivious to the appearance of others on the roof.
What is he doing?
I'll take care of him.
Wait.
Josephine approached the dome cautiously and looked at one of the gaps. She immediately felt sick. The lobby, which had been full of people, was now full of corpses. There was blood everywhere, people lying where they'd fallen, twisted with horror frozen on their faces. Men and women, old and young. Guards were walking around and finishing off those that were still moving. She could see what had happened. Francis had commanded them to focus on the target and get rid of the civilians. Getting them out was too slow and they were too much of a panic to be told to sit down quietly. So the guards had just killed them. Not because they were criminals, but because they were in the way. What was a few hundred people more when Nephthys was planning to slowly kill thousands? Any atrocity could be blamed on Josephine and her friends later, she realized. And that wasn't even far-fetched. They decided to break into here in broad daylight, knowing there would be civilians in the way. They'd shot first, using the panic of masses as cover. Carefully, first Ronnie, then Norbert took a peek. My God. Yeah, I'm gonna go throw up. And she did.
This is my fault.
No, it's not. They're to blame for what they did and no one else. We must focus on getting out of here. That God is distracted, we can sneak off. Or we can give him a taste of his own medicine. We can't let all of them get away with this. It's pointless vengeance. The victims are dead. We'll be doing more for them if we get out and hit back harder. I call it justice. That man is a mass murderer. I can't live with myself if he goes home to watch TV after this. You would take needless risks to get revenge, and we all might die because of it. Does that sound familiar? Doesn't he deserve it? Certainly he has it coming more than the 6 people I already killed today. That was self-defense. This can be avoided. We'd be killing a person out of bloodlust. You bring us to his level. We should get off this roof and stay focused on the big picture. We're after the system that allowed this, the big fish. We can do both. There's no way any of the soldiers who did this are ever getting consequences. Except that man. Wasn't the whole point of this to get back at those who did this kind of shit and never have to face the law? It's obvious we'll never agree on this. Josephine, I think you should decide. And I think you should also drop a save right here if you haven't yet.
What sage advice. Thanks, Doc.
Oh, you're welcome. Alright, if Josephine thinks we should let a murderer walk from the crime scene, I'll play along. Across the dome, the man had stopped shooting. He dropped his rifle, shaking, and began to light a cigarette. He was having trouble with it. Fuck! He still couldn't see the 3 of them. Turned his back to the group. It was obvious he was deeply disturbed by what he'd just done. Look at him, he's in shock and he dropped his gun, he's unarmed! And if we let him live, he's more likely to see us now. What's going to be, Josephine? What will you do? Oh shit, we finally have an inflection point here.
Shit.
Alright. What are we deciding here? I have no idea how this affects the potential endings.
Yeah, me neither.
I think we should go with Ronnie here.
Yeah, what's one more murder in the bucket?
Not just that, but he could see us running away.
Indeed. Ronnie's right. We can't right the wrongs in this world if we let murderers go free.
Fine then. Make it quick and let's get out of here.
I'll handle it quietly. You two stay back. The guard had now taken off his helmet and was visibly shaking. Ronnie crouched to begin circling the remnants of the dome, her gun at the ready. The guard, still oblivious, was desperately trying to keep watch over the broken dome without looking down. Every time he did, he twitched violently and shook his head. Josephine didn't want to watch the man die. She looked at Norbert, who was staring at the ground.
Are you okay?
I don't even have time to do the Terry Bogard joke anymore. I feel like this goes against my vows. Definitely goes against my...
They heard a gunshot. Josephine turned around to see the guard fall into the pit. Except he didn't. Ronnie had missed. She had taken cover behind the dome and fired a clean shot across the gap, and missed. The guard responded immediately with a withering burst of bullets, forcing Ronnie to roll to the ground. A shower of broken glass fell upon her. Josephine and Norbert dropped to their stomachs and kept their heads down.
I need reinforcements, hostiles on the roof.
Well, that went poorly.
That went poorly.
Halt! Don't shoot!
Norbert had gotten up.
Stay where you are and put your hands up.
Nobody has to die! We can pull back and live!
The guard looked stunned.
Norbert, get down!
Ronnie was watching closely. She kept her gun trained on the guard. Now Josephine noticed the man was bleeding. Ronnie hadn't missed. She had sawed him in the thigh.
Doctor, if you let me, I'll patch up that wound. Then we'll all go our separate ways.
The guard looked suspicious.
Okay, yeah, sure. Come closer so I can see you're not armed.
Norbert took a few steps closer. The guard did not lower his gun.
Closer?
Smiling, Norbert obeyed.
He's gonna get
The
shot.
guard sat down. Norbert came closer. Josephine glanced at Ronnie. She was looking worried. The guard was sitting behind the dome. Ronnie couldn't see him anymore.
Okay, keep pressing that wound. Do you have bandages in your kit?
Of course I do. I'm a medic.
And he shot Norbert in the chest.
Oof.
Josephine screamed as she watched him go down.
Fuck!
So I figure that's what happens the other way as well. If you say, let's all escape, then Norbert and Josephine go first, and the guard turns around, catches sight of, and shoots Ronnie. I bet that's what it is.
No!
I
She
bet
pulled
that's
her
it.
gun and fired. Guard fell back, gasping for air as blood sprayed out the hole in his throat. He dropped his gun.
Norbert!
She scrambled to him, only dimly hearing Ronnie's steps following her. Norbert was alive. He was pale and there was rapidly spreading pool of blood under him. He was breathing fast, his eyes darted wildly like he was looking for something. Finally, they found Josephine and settled.
I tried to help him. No, we agreed.
Shh, don't talk. We'll get you out of here.
No, you won't. In all my years of medicine, I only knew one person who came back from this kind of injury. That'd be you. I doubt I'll be the second. I can hardly operate on myself.
Shut up. Not losing faith is crucial to surviving. You said so yourself.
Norbert smiled faintly.
Not losing blood is pretty important too. Except for me, Josephine. It's more to life than being a beating heart. You taught me that. But I'm out of heartbeats. You should go. Dying is not pretty. I love you. You know that, right?
I love you too.
Norbert, I'm so sorry. I missed my shot, and then when you started talking, I thought you could fix it. You always do.
It's not your fault. It's mine. That man was clearly unstable. Approaching him was fucking dumb, frankly.
Norbert stopped talking and began to hyperventilate, then spasm.
He's going into shock. Hold him down. We'll get him out.
Josephine threw herself on Norbert, pinning him and trying to put pressure on the wound in his chest. There was so much blood, the wound was a gaping hole almost too big for Josephine's hands to cover. Joe, we can't get him out.
We'll carry him together.
We can't. Not over to the other roof and down to the street. I'm sorry.
Fuck that. Help me. I'm not letting him die. I love this man.
The moment she said that, Norbert calmed down. Careful not to let up on the pressure, Josephine looked into Norbert's eyes. He seemed confused.
Miss Lace, what are you doing on the roof? Shouldn't you be in bed? Who's your friend?
Josephine couldn't hold back the tears.
I just like the fresh air, Dr. Maturana.
Staff balcony is much nicer. No nets up there.
I know. We went there together and down the fire escape.
We did? special of me. Then again, you are something extraordinary, Joseph.
You too. I love you, Norbert.
Josephine kissed his lips. They were already cold. Norbert smiled.
Miss Lace, this is highly unethical. I think I must ask for another doctor to take over your case. Whose blood has your wound opened? Or have I not closed it yet? Why is it so hard to think? I could use some coffee.
Joe. He's already gone. Josephine wept. Her chest hurt.
Norbert, please, remember, come back. For just a moment, please. Please don't die. Please.
Norbert was barely breathing.
Miss, I couldn't help but notice. Can I help you somehow?
Then he stopped talking. He was dead. Josephine collapsed onto him. It was cold. All the warmth had bled out onto the cold concrete roof. She felt Ronnie's hand on her shoulder. I'm sorry, Joe, but we have to get out of here. Now.
He can't be. He was always trying to... Why him? Of all people.
He died doing what he thought was right. You know that. He wouldn't have had it any other way.
What does that matter? He's dead. Gone. A lump of meat.
No, he's in a better place. That lump of meat is just a broken vessel. He would want you to get away. Josephine closed her eyes. Norbert's pale face stayed. She took a deep breath.
You're right. If we don't go now, he died for nothing. We can still save Bob and Amy. And get even with Francis, finally, and for good.
Ronnie helped her up just in time. Security guards were starting to peek through the hatch. Crap, let's go. They turned and ran, leaping over to the other roof, easily with the extra burst of adrenaline. They reached the ladder only to remember it was gone.
Oh, yes, it broke under Norbert.
We'll have to enter the building. Come on. Keeping their heads down, they searched for another hatch. There was one. Ronnie forced it open, and they entered what seemed like the emergency stairway of an office building. Ronnie grabbed Josephine, and they made their way down to the street. No one noticed them on the way, or perhaps they didn't notice anyone. Josephine wasn't sure. She kept her eyes closed the whole way down. She could still see Norbert, and she didn't want to let go. Only when she felt the fresh air on the street off her face did Ronnie snap her back to reality.
There goes gravity.
Really? Now?
It's how I cope!
Where to now? What's the plan?
We have to go see the house. I have to know if it's just the two of us now.
Understood. Do you hear something?
Oh, yeah. Sirens.
More police. They're surrounding the perimeter.
No, they're ambulances. For the press cameras.
Really? But... Of course, they wanted to look like we did the massacre and they rushed to help.
Yep. And we should borrow one.
Huh?
It's the fastest and safest way to get past the police blockade, and they'll have a charger for me.
It wasn't hard to find the column of vans with flashing lights and loud sirens. In the commotion, it wasn't also hard to persuade one of the drivers to give up the vehicle. To make sure the man wouldn't tell any tales while they made their escape, Ronnie injected a sedative into him before they left him on a bench. We should have a good 15 minutes before anyone finds him, and then maybe an hour before he comes to. Maybe. Josephine made no reply. She was busy fixing a power cord to her heart. Her chest was already tight with pain. Norbert's heart, she realized. The life that he'd gifted her. Now that he was gone, the pain might never go, she thought. Once they were out of the center, the streets were mostly abandoned. Gunshots and sirens were an effective curfew. And passed by some journalists waiting anxiously to be allowed on the scene. Tina McAllister was among them. Josephine pressed herself into her seat and looked away. Now was not a great time to be noticed. The ache in her chest gradually got worse. Now that there was a time for feelings, she felt like she was drowning. After a while, Ronnie noticed Josephine was sobbing. She pulled over. Hey, talk to me. Josephine said nothing. She just leaned into her and cried. I feel like this is my fault.
You didn't shoot anybody.
Exactly. If I shot that bastard properly like we planned, I'd be arguing with him right now about whether or not it was the right thing to do.
We should have listened to him in the first place.
Maybe. Who knows? But it definitely isn't your fault.
Who knows? If I'd shot sooner...
I'm sorry you had to shoot at all. I wouldn't want that burden on anyone else.
How did you do it in the army? Because I know what I did was justified. It saved my life, but I'm disgusted by it.
It's hard. And it doesn't get any easier.
Never?
Crap, I'm not good with words. What I'm trying to say is it shouldn't get easier. If you do it long enough, it actually does. But that just makes you hate yourself even more.
Realizing you've become numb to taking lives, I hope that never happens to me.
I hope so too, but I have a feeling that man wasn't the last you're going to kill.
Me too. And that scares me.
I get it. How are you feeling otherwise?
Devastated, too much in shock to be sad, and something less than whole. Like a part of me was chopped off. It's like when I lost my heart and thought I'd lost you too, just worse. So much worse.
Is there something I can do?
How did you cope with losing comrades in the army?
We mostly just tried not to talk about them. We hung their pictures on the wall, had a memorial drink, and moved on.
That easily?
It's never easy. And you definitely didn't want to talk about it with someone you might lose the next day.
You didn't go to their graves or meet with family?
I know I never did. The military catacombs are a dark basement with thousands of tiny plaques. I hated it.
Do you know if Norbert had any family?
He spoke of his parents, but I don't actually know. Did you want me to find out? Josephine shook her head.
Far too dangerous. Maybe someday, but Norbert shouldn't go unburied. He needs a memorial.
How about this? We find Amy and Bob, decide on a plan, and then we hold a memorial.
That sounds good.
They drove in silence. As they approached the house, Josephine began to feel safer, like she always had before. When she realized the folly of it, she was suddenly terrified. The house wasn't safe. Nowhere was safe anymore. Son of a bitch!
Indeed.
Oh my god! Join us next time as we race quickly towards the
Thrilling conclusion?
the climax at a minimum.
Smash that like, comment and subscribe.
That episode is called ahaha.wave.
Really?